So thank you for joining everyone to our second episode of Every Company Has a Story. I'm Krista Linnell, the Head of Marketing for Context Translations. And this morning, I'm joined by Roz Hutchings from Stratton Craig. Morning, Roz.
Hi, Krista. Hello, everyone else.
So first of all, Roz, can you tell us a little bit about Stratton Craig and your role there?
Absolutely. So Stratton Craig, we're a UK-based specialist content writing agency with 35 years wise. We're based in Bristol, but we also frequently travel up to London and have office space there. And of course, before the pandemic, we were frequently sort of 1 or 2 days a week based in London as well. Very much our work supports clients with writing content, and that isn't just producing the content, it's also supporting clients with content strategies, so for example, things like content planning, tone of voice, but also then supporting them with writing any sort of written format, and that can range from anything from an annual report right through to product descriptions for a website, and very much we are very flexible and we support our clients each in a very individual way, but we very much see ourselves as an extension of a client's marketing team, so we can help them respond to their capacity needs. So we have a team of in-house writers, but we also have a wider network of writers that we use when our clients need that flexing capacity. And indeed as well for the capability. So it may be that there's quite a niche example of work that they're looking for us to support them with, or it might be that they're looking for an annual report to be produced and they just haven't quite got that skill set in-house. So they come to us, and we have a huge range of ESG and annual report writers who have that experience, they have that specialism, and we can onboard them with the project to get that project completed successfully for the client.
Perfect. And your role there, how would you sort of encapsulate your role?
So my role is business development manager. So very much my responsibility is supporting new clients. So responding to their initial inquiry, setting up a call to understand more about their needs and their business objectives, and then putting together a proposal to demonstrate how we can help. And sometimes that might be, exactly how the client thought we could help, but there may be other ideas as well that we can suggest to support them. And once the project has been approved, then I introduce and set up the client to their sort of project team. So they have an account manager. Every client has a dedicated account manager. So it's one simple point of contact. And then that account manager will also manage the writing team and a project manager as well, if necessary, in particular on high volume projects. So then the client can be confident that there is one team dedicated to delivering their project. So we can onboard the writers with the particular tone of voice and style for the client, and they can really understand the sort of business objectives behind the product, the work that we're writing for them. So it saves, any confusion or kind of like inefficiencies as well.
Yeah, no, that's good to know the process there. So diving straight in to the title of the session, how do you win with words on a global scale? Like, very simple question to start off with, but how do you do it?
So we're really proud that the majority of our clients, they either have a global reach or they're based abroad. So making sure that the messaging in the content that we produce for them lands in different markets is really key. It's a real key consideration when we're producing almost every piece that we write. So for example, at the moment, we're working with Amazon writing job descriptions for them. Right. And we typically write everything in English, but then we look to get those pieces of content translated. And of course, with something like a job description, making sure that the accuracy of that message is clear is absolutely paramount. And also making sure that then that message translates across into other regions and other languages is also fundamental, because there's no point in somebody reading a job description and then applying for something that isn't quite what they initially thought. So we work really hard to liaise closely with our clients to make sure that we can help them make sure that that messaging really lands in a variety of different regions and markets, and of course with the support of translation partners like yourself.
Perfect. So you mentioned, you sort of touched on your specialist services. Can you go into a bit more detail there? How do they extend the global reach?
Yeah, so we produce a whole wide range of formats, as I mentioned, but a key part of the work that we do is reporting, as I mentioned. So we partner with NASDAQ as one of our ESG report writing partners. So we support the NASDAQ team and their ESG consultancy to produce ESG reports for all the companies that are listed with NASDAQ. So of course, naturally, each of those companies, they've got a global reach. So it's really important, you know, really our first consideration when we're writing that report is typically that it's written in US English. And that goes beyond thinking, okay, we've got to remember, you know, American spellings.
Yeah.
It's about the phrasing and the messaging and making sure that that really lands in that market for their stakeholders, their shareholders and investors. And then sort of moving a step forward, we also produce what we call messaging houses for a lot of our clients. And a messaging house, in summary, is very much looking at the sort of core values of a business, and then understanding how we can develop usually sort of 2 or 3 pillars. So that's, you've got the foundations and then you've got your sort of pillars of your house. To talk to different markets or talk to different pain points for different customers consistently, and then we can develop the messaging around those sort of key pillars. And again, that's really helpful for a business when they're wanting to make sure that they have that consistent message right across their market. And then indeed we can sometimes get those translated as well, you know, if necessary, if there are other languages to consider for a brand. So, you know, we very much will support our clients in developing the sorts of formats and the sorts of content they need, but always with that key consideration in mind that, you know, something that is read in the UK might be interpreted very differently in America or indeed in any other country around the world.
Yeah, I love that concept of a messaging house. It kind of cuts through the noise and communicates to the sort of your end client and for yourself internally what everyone's working towards. I think I love that concept. I think that's really clever.
Yeah, we find it really helpful because it just allows us to not only have a consistency of messaging when we're working on the client's projects, and, you know, going back to that initial point that, you know, we do have a consistent team that work on those projects, so that then the team typically have produced that messaging house, they then know the messaging that's to be used throughout that content. So it just helps that consistency. But also as well, it just means that should the client then need to develop content and messaging in their own teams, and they've got that sort of guideline, they've got that blueprint then to use. So it's a really valuable thing.
Yeah. So diving a little bit more into the ESG reporting, I'm fairly new to that concept. Why should firms care about ESG reporting, those who aren't currently doing it?
So ESG reporting, and, you know, just for clarification, if people on the call aren't clear, it stands for environmental, social and governance. There is a slight tendency to just assume it's an environmental or a sustainability report. But it's actually deeper than that. It really examines how a company is performing, yes, within an environmental aspect, but also from a societal and governmental aspect as well. So in short, it's mandatory in America. So any company listed on any stock exchange has to produce an ESG report. And, you know, inevitably that will soon become mandatory in the UK. So, you know, other than it being a regulatory requirement, what is really fantastic to have seen in the last few years that, you know, we've absolutely, you know, seen ESG reporting inquiries snowball, is that clients really understand the importance of looking after both their people and the planet as well as their profit. And actually profit benefits when people and planet are also looked after. And I think perhaps in the past there was a bit of a lack of understanding of how, you know, spending money, you know, I don't know, increasing wages, or you know, making sure that the processes are more environmentally friendly. Companies may have seen that as, well, that's extra money, and how's that going to help our profit? But actually the reality is that clients are reporting that they're seeing they're able to attract better talent, and they're also able to retain that talent when they can demonstrate that they're a company that look after not just their profit but people and the planet. And as well, increasingly younger people are citing a company's ESG performance as a key factor when they're considering applying for a role. So I think that, you know, for a company to sustain and thrive through, you know, will be a rather bumpy economic couple of months, perhaps years. ESG reporting is just a really fantastic way to not just review and evaluate yourselves as a business, but also really to share that message to, you know, your wider stakeholders, so the shareholders, the investors, but also the people who work in your business. We've been very careful to make sure that every ESG report, and indeed any annual report that we produce, is a useful document. It's not just a tick boxing exercise. So very much we pull together an engaging and compelling narrative when we're drafting our ESG reports, so that you know, a company can feel really proud of what they've done. And another thought to add is that a lot of companies are coming to us at the moment asking for us to produce, you know, their first, perhaps second ESG report. They may have had a go at it in-house and realised, oh, you know, it's a bit of a confusing process, or we're just not really sure about what our story is.
I can see that might be common.
Yeah. And indeed, lots of clients are saying, we don't really have an ESG story yet. And we're like, that's absolutely fine. You know, the fact that you're even looking at producing an ESG report is a huge step forward. And, you know, the first step is the start of that journey. So then the company can really evaluate, okay, where are we at? Often they are surprised as well, actually. They're a lot further along than they thought. But we can tease out those real highlights to include in the report. But then the report can also look forward, of course. So you can then say, okay, well, in the next 12 months, we're planning to do X, Y, and Z. So then that starts that narrative going. So I think even if a client feels that, oh, we're really miles off you know, a positive or a useful ESG story, there's always something to be shared, and certainly that future intention is really important to share as well.
So to ensure that you mentioned to ensure its use, so to ensure its reach, you've written the ESG report, it's been well received by the business. How do you then ensure it doesn't just sit on the shelf with the business? Do you get involved then with the marketing team to sort of tease out further campaigns or anything else from it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And we have an ESG toolkit that we can support clients with maximising and leveraging the messaging within the ESG report. We do find, you know, by the end of a report being produced, you know, a lot of clients are just breathing a sigh of relief. Right, we've got that done, got that through, and on to the next thing. But, you know, we feel that there's so many fantastic nuggets in there that can be shared and promoted across all sorts of different channels. So of course, you know, we can repurpose the content into press releases, or we can repurpose it into a blog series. And of course, you know, we can just use small snippets and quotes and standout statistics to use social media posts to then promote the link to encourage people to read the content and read the report on the website. So there's, you know, a handful of things that we can do, you know, on a very simple basis in terms of, you know, repurposing that content in the ESG report. But we can also support clients as well. Some clients have been really keen to produce like a video summary, which has been really interesting. So then again, you know, pop that on the LinkedIn company web page, and you know, a minute overview. And often, you know, if we can get the CEO to talk that through, I mean, how impactful.
That is.
It's really good.
Yeah, it must be really rewarding to like talking a company through like how gathering the information for an ESG report works and how you can help them for it to do that, and then having the CEO talk about the report and the output and how proud they are.
Yeah. It really does. It's such a powerful way to share the message, and so engaging, and then it really encourages people to read the report if they're looking to do that.
Yeah, perfect. So being marketing myself, you mentioned another specialism, it was in creative campaigns. What's your advice for a marketing professional when they're looking at their content strategy? This big beast that is, where's the content plan? What's our content strategy? What's your advice for us?
Well, we very much, as I mentioned at the beginning, we both partner with marketing teams who are looking for that additional kind of insight and support. And we also can support a client who's already worked out their content plan, but just looking for some help to actually get it delivered. When we're looking at supporting a team with producing their content strategy, we're really lucky, actually. We've recently, in the last few months, onboarded an internal in-house researcher. So our researcher typically will kick off by having a look at what the market is talking about, and also what competitors are talking about, how they're talking about it. So we can understand very much then, understanding our clients' brand values, looking at their business objectives. How can we make sure that our client is speaking in a really authoritative way, and standing out in that marketplace? So once we sort of pull together that research, we really use that to inform the plan. And we typically kick off with sort of a number of sort of 2 to 3 maybe topics or themes that a client's audience may be interested in, or a client might look to be the thought leader in. So for example, say cost of living was one of your themes.
Very topical.
Very topical. And so that's a very wide theme, just cost of living. So we would then do what we call explode that idea. So we would then look at all the different angles that you could perhaps address that topic through. So for example, it might be things like energy bills, it might be things like how to make your house more energy efficient, it might be looking at how to manage your monthly household budget, it might be looking at how to make sure that your weekly food shop is done efficiently. So there's lots of different angles that you could kind of look at within that one theme. And then once we've kind of exploded out the ideas, we'll then start to really hone down, what are the topics or the titles of those pieces of content? And indeed, what sort of content is going to be most useful for our client's audience at what stage of their engagement journey. So looking at the marketing funnel and how we can make sure that the client's customers are being moved down the funnel. So we can then start to understand the topic titles. So maybe it's a blog series on how to save money on your energy bills. So then we would go ahead and sort of draft that out then as a content calendar. And I should say, obviously, we very much can support our clients with this, but we like to take a very collaborative approach. So we're not by any means just rocking up and saying, ta-da, this is your content plan. Because, we want to make sure that we're supporting our clients and not just, presenting an idea that might not be quite the area that they're looking at to develop. So we sort of do this collaboratively through a series of workshops, and then, as I say, we can produce that content calendar together, and then we can crack on and produce that content for the client, or indeed they may want to produce it in-house as well. But we can be very flexible with our approach there.
Brilliant. And how would you support a client if you had written the content or if they'd written it themselves to judge success? I know success could come out of those workshops, because that could be, a number of things, and that's individual to each client. But typically, are there any main themes of how you judge success with a content strategy?
Yeah, it's a good question. We obviously there are analytics that you can look at, and a lot of the time we can support our clients with reviewing those analytics. While we're a specialist content writing agency, we very much work in partnerships with SEO agencies, so that we can kind of work in tandem to really understand, you know, how a piece of content has performed, and then it can inform perhaps our second round of content planning. So we don't have, just to be clear, as a specialist writing agency, we very much focus on being brilliant in that area.
Yeah.
So we don't wade into being SEO experts, but of course we write SEO friendly content to perform well. So we look to the SEO experts to tell us how that's performing, and we can kind of together review that content, and then we use that insight to inform our next round of content that we're producing. And indeed, we, you know, it's not just the obvious things like blogs, it's, you know, things like white papers are another really powerful marketing tool. We write regularly for a large, well, perhaps the world's biggest large real estate company, CBRE IM, and we write monthly thought leadership pieces for them. And those thought leadership pieces are very much thought leadership. They are cutting edge, you know, understanding about potential investment opportunities, very newsworthy, very topical. And those white papers are used to supplement a webinar. So they invite a number of potential investors onto the webinar, and then a couple of weeks later there's a follow-up email with our white paper included. So we get, you know, some insights then from those teams to understand, you know, how many people have then, you know, gone on to invest, how many people, they've even got analytics, they can see who's clicked on it, who's read it. So we can use all sorts of different analytics and feedback and insight from our client to really sense check the success of a piece of content. And then it's, you know, good old feedback. You know, we had some wonderful feedback from CBRE this week with one of the internal stakeholders that we interview regularly to get that thought leadership insight. And, you know, he said it's just so great the way you capture these ideas, these complex, very nuanced ideas, and then put them into a really engaging piece of content that he finds so useful to then be able to market their services to investors. So yeah, there's a number of different ways.
Oh, perfect. So another interesting question. What are the common misconceptions of working with a copywriting agency? I know that, you know, everyone wants good content, but what do you find is the most common misconception about your field?
There's a handful. I think a lot of our clients come to us after they've tried using freelance platforms, things like Upwork and people per hour. While obviously, you know, there's some fantastic freelancers on there. Indeed, before I was at Stratton Craig and I had a bit of time freelancing myself, I, you know, went on there, and it, you know, it is a really powerful platform. But it is very, it takes time and effort to really find the style of writer and the experience that you're looking for on those platforms. So we've had a lot of clients come to us and say, oh, we've just, you know, kept coming up against the wrong writer on that platform. So we're really looking for your help in, you know, making sure that we've got the best writers with the right expertise. And, you know, even though we have, as I said at the beginning, a wider network of writers as well as our in-house writers, they are very much as carefully vetted and as carefully interviewed as our in-house team. And so once a writer is identified as being the right fit for Stratton Craig, you know, the right experience and expertise, the right professionalism, then they're onboarded onto our system, and then they stay there, you know, for a number of years. We've got some of our writers who've been with us for 20 years on a freelance basis, but, you know, they're very much part of the Stratton Craig wider team. Indeed, they all have their own email addresses, for example. So we very much like to see and treat our wider network as, you know, the Stratton Craig team. So that is one misconception, is the sort of using of freelancers, and the pros and the cons. And then there's another, obviously, the misconception, a lot of very overwhelmed marketing teams come to us saying, we just need help, we haven't got the capacity or sometimes the skill set in-house to put into action the content plan we produced, or they, you know, often, you know, occasionally, you know, higher up in the business, there is the assumption that we've got a marketing team so they can deliver the marketing campaigns and the writing for those campaigns. But we just spoke with a client last week, and, you know, she said, I'm a marketeer, I'm not a writer. There's a complete difference. And likewise, you know, you know, as a sort of fundamentally as a writer, you know, I think I'd worry if I had to launch a marketing campaign. You know, we've got to work to our skills and strengths. So, you know, very much speaking to those marketing teams, it's helping them sell that message up, that we need this extra help to be able to deliver the content at the level we want, and often at the volume we want and at the pace we want. So, you know, it always comes back to, you know, we very much see ourselves as an extension of a team, a marketing team, so that we can just help when, you know, things get busy, or there's a large campaign that needs that support, or indeed it's, you know, that simple thing of, we know we need to regularly post a blog, we haven't got time to keep doing that every week, to get the headspace and the thoughts. And so, you know, we regularly, obviously we produce blogs on a monthly basis, white papers on a monthly basis for a whole range of clients. So I would say they're the two most common misconceptions.
I think that from what I've seen in the market as well, I think if you want to, you know, to the title of the session, win with words on that international stage, I really think rather than the freelancing model, I think partnering with experts is the way to go. I think that would be my sort of top tip, that there is a distinct difference between a sort of collective of freelancers to partnering with someone like yourselves at Stratton Craig, where, you know, you get those messaging houses, you get that full trusted guiding voice on how you want to, you know, achieve your goals internationally through your copy. So ending on a good note, talking to the title of the session with, you know, on that international stage, what are the benefits with Stratton Craig, would you say, Roz?
I think you sort of touched on it very much just then. You know, we very much are an experienced, trusted, safe pair of hands. You know, we have you know, huge experience in supporting clients on a global scale. So we know best practice. We you know, because we have our research team, we've always got a real understanding of you know, the very best ways that clients can be marketing themselves and sharing their message and communicating their message in the most useful and relevant way, and also making sure that clients, you know, we always like to think of ourselves as a partner, as I've explained a few times, because we can then, you know, feed back to clients, say, hey, have you seen this? You know, have you thought about this? You know, for example, an inquiry yesterday, it's very much, okay, we just need some blogs writing, you know, very standard inquiry because marketing team are overwhelmed. And I said, well, do you have a tone of voice? And the client said, what's that? And so then I explained what the tone of voice is, and she said, that is exactly what we need, to provide that sort of foundation of our tone as a brand. So we have that clear identity across everything we produce. So it's having a team who can kind of give you that added expertise and that added value. You know, when clients come to us with a need, we can propose to them the best way to go about solving that need. And as I say, you know, just knowing that you've got that kind of team of people who know your business, know your brand, know your business objectives, and know how best to serve those. So at any point, you know, we do have retainer packages with some of our clients, a lot of our clients now. And so, you know, we have a regular monthly relationship with them. And they know that at any point they can brief us a piece of content, either the regular content we're producing for them, or if there's additional content they need setting up, and we're there, that ready to rock, onboarded with the brand and the style, and we can just get on and crack on. And indeed as well, you know, some clients may come to us for an annual report and then know that in a year's time when they need the annual report producing, Stratton Craig can just pick up from that narrative before and build from there. And particularly with ESG reporting, as I mentioned, with those brands who are struggling with that sort of year one story, we are increasingly saying to clients, well, look, we can partner with you for sort of 2 to 3 years, and then you've just got that efficiency. Then we can just build from year one into year 3 to a sort of full length report. So we typically may produce what we call a highlights report in year 1, to, as I say, just pick out those real key highlights and then the intentions for the coming year, and then develop that year 2, and then year 3 it's very much a sort of more detailed full length report. And again, clients are finding that's really helpful because we can then, as I say, they don't have to keep going and finding that supplier every year. They can just crack on.
Yeah, no, well, like talking to your tone of voice, I've seen brands that have a tone of voice document, but then there appears to be 5 different tones of voice, even on a website. So it's because numerous content writers have influenced the content.
Yes.
So, and whereas it hasn't come under that one umbrella to make sure that quality is there. I'm going to open up questions now. Feel free to use the Q&A functionality, everyone, if you have any questions for Roz or myself. I think we covered a lot there for ESG reporting and creative campaigns for marketeers. I've got one question while we wait for anyone to type, Roz. With ESG reporting in the States that's shortly going to become mandatory in the UK, is there a common theme who that sits with? What department, or is it always different?
It's really interesting. In the America, it's very much with kind of the legal counsel, which we've been not surprised, but I suppose when we produce the annual reports for clients, it's very much more with the marketing teams. But we are finding that with the UK clients, more people are coming to us from the marketing teams, and perhaps they've tried to do it last year in-house and realize they just need a bit of external support. But yeah, we are sort of, I would say probably about 50-50 in America with it being the legal counsel, because it's a mandatory requirement, and it sort of naturally feeds into the various other reporting requirements that they need to submit in America. So I think that's probably why it sits with them. But as well, you know, we are getting the marketing teams, and often, I mean, we've had a few where it's been the CEO's sort of support team, usually, you know, their assistant, who's kind of spearheading it and then pulling together all the right people in the business as well. So then the CEO feels like, oh, this is, you know, it's the CEO's message and report, but it's being managed by the assistants. So yeah, it's interesting. We're seeing a few different.
Yeah, I think that, I thought you would. We've had a question from Elaine. Have you witnessed any absolute cultural blunders that your client has made? You don't need to name names.
Well, that's really interesting. Thanks, Elaine. We, this week we work for a huge travel company, and they work with a branding team and a social media team who are all external partners. So it's a really awesome project for us to be involved with, and it's very high volume. It's one of our retainer clients. You know, we work sort of 60+ hours a month on the account, so it's very high volume. And so we've got regular meetings with all of the partners, and we work in super close tandem with them all. So yeah, there's a few different ideas flying around, you know, at any given time when you know, content and campaigns are being planned and thought about. And yeah, we had we had some questionable language use coming through as some of the ideas yesterday, and it seems that there's just a sense of double entendres, let's say, when it's talking about big deals that you can be getting and big discounts on your trip. And we just thought, have you thought about this? And we did feedback our thoughts, and I think they're going to run with it. So okay, we'll see how that lands. But
Yeah.
you know, all we can do is feedback. You know, we very much have to you know, it wasn't even from the client, it was from one of the partners, but that's the way the client wants to go, then we'll go with it.
Yeah, fair enough. And we've had one from Adrian. He's asking if you know your take on Chat GPT as a copywriting agency. I haven't heard of them, but I'm not in your field. So
Yeah, so is just some doubly checking. This is the AI. Can correct me.
right, okay, I've got you. Yeah.
Because yeah, absolutely. I'm just getting, you know, up to speed with this. This is very much our writers have been, you know, talking on our Slack channel. They've got their own channel, and I've seen a lot going on the last few weeks about the AI. Yeah, the
Yes,
AI.
yeah.
Thank you. So yes, one of our writers, she has a daughter doing her GCSEs at the minute, and she's been testing it out with some of her coursework. And our in-house writer has been reviewing that coursework and saying it's all right. And you know, I think my partner as well, he was using it a bit this week, because actually he's very dyslexic, and he was thinking, oh, this is going to be great, because he runs his own business and writing content for his website is a bit of a task for him. So he thought, I wonder if it could help me with some content for my website. And so we were looking at it, and it's okay, but it's just very generic. But you know, being honest, I was quite surprised, pleasantly surprised, that it made sense, and it didn't sound too contrived. But I did feel that yes, it's very generalist. You know, if you wanted to really have a unique message, a unique style and tone, definitely humans are still going to be able to implement that. But it's a fascinating thing, and it's obviously come along so quickly. It will be fascinating to see how it learns and how it evolves, and yeah, where we kind of sit alongside that. But we did a couple of weeks ago actually have a team meeting, because again, we just always like to keep up to speed with you know, the latest things that are going on. And one of our in-house writers is a tech expert, and he was sharing a lot of really helpful insight about the metaverse, and just trying to understand, you know, what that means for us as an agency, and how we can support clients with these increasing technology aids, I suppose you could call them, and where that, you know, where that sits in the marketing mix. And you know, we very much see it that, as I say, you know, we can very much support our clients on a very business needs basis. And AI is going to have a bit of a way to go to be able to really specifically support clients in that way. Good question there.
Yeah, no, great question. And we also see it in the translation industry. You know, I think it's great for collecting data and automating laborious processes. And I think if something is, you know, a straight translation that is, you know, we work alongside with it in some instances, but it can never replace, we're seeing, that human creativity. And I think that is that attention that is the most like valuable commodity that we're seeing with that. Yeah, with that creativity. But it's definitely, we don't shy away from it either. So we're kind of, you know, it's, I think AI is used the best for me when it's used in conjunction with human activity. It kind of frees up the human to be more creative. And also makes those labours rather than an and or. But it is fascinating to watch. We'll see if the future of Skynet is on our is on our hands. Great question, Adrian. Anything from anyone else while I've still got Roz? But I'll make sure that we circulate the recording, and of course Roz's details. And as you've heard, she's the person to chat to if you've got any new business inquiries about partnering with a copywriting agency. And just from our experience, they are world class. So an endorsement from me. I think that's it, Roz. I don't think anything else is coming through. Well, thank you so much for today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and good luck with the cycling to work, and fantastic holiday later on in the year.
Oh, well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Krista. Thanks so much for asking us to feature on the webinar series, and many thanks to everyone for joining today and listening later on.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.